So I run a local currency in my neighborhood in Brooklyn. I came up with this idea when I was unemployed, as Deirdre said. I was really interested in finding a way to go outside, but I felt like I didn't have any capital to spend. And I made this assumption, I think a lot of my friends and myself made this assumption that we need money to go outside and hang out. And that seemed like it didn't make a lot of sense when all I wanted to do was ride my bike. So my original idea, before I made the money that I actually did make, was I was going to try and figure out how to deliver cash to people on a bicycle. So I was like trying to figure this out, and I was like riding my bike around and like trying to picture how I could like hand cash out to people and how the payment process would come back to me. And I hadn't quite figured it out, but I was asking a bunch of my friends how that would work. And all of my friends, everyone was like, you're definitely gonna get punched because it's not safe for a girl on a bike to be handing out cash. It's just like, what? No. And so I was like, what are you talking about? This is like a really good idea. People need cash. I like riding my bike. It seems like these two things can go together. But literally, like, I couldn't even, all of my colleagues that I was looking at to try and figure out how to, like, technically do this were just like, no. So that kind of, like, sent me into, like, a tailspin of, like, well, what is the problem? And I realized, like, why would people mistrust? Why would I distrust someone who wanted a service from me? And why would someone sort of like try to take advantage of someone who is giving a service to them? And that sort of sent me into this space where I thought a lot about how we trust each other, and there's a lot of social trust embedded in transactions. That seemed really interesting to me, and I started, searching and doing a lot of research about what money is and how money is not really. It is a store of value, but it's also a store of trust in each other, that we all sort of believe that the system works together. And that seemed like something that I sort of dived into and thought that I could like build on top of. So I started searching the internet and heard about local currencies. So local currencies have been around for a while. Probably forever. I think you could probably say forever, because local currencies are the medium of exchange for a small group of people. The reason they get a lot of attention lately is because the local movement is growing. The idea that like we're redefining our communities to where we live, and that our neighbors are actually the people that live next to us, which is like somehow a novel idea in this like global internet age where our neighbors can also be someone in Kenya, but and when it comes to the food system, we probably should be thinking about our own watershed. So I started looking at local currencies and thought that I could do that. I live in Brooklyn. I lived at the time in Greenpoint, which is often called a small town in a big city. People really know each other and clean the sidewalks and borrow things from each other and rake each other's yards. It's sort of like a very special place to be, and I felt that was like something I wanted to export in an urban environment, this idea that we like actually know each other and that we like each other and that we want to support each other. So I kind of had this idea, and then the first thing that I did was I pitched it. I'm an artist, so I looked for a grant organization. And there was this great grant organization in my neighborhood called FEAST, which stands for Funding Emerging Artists Through Sustainable Tactics. They're a great organization. What they do is they have a dinner party, and you invite people to the dinner. People pay at the door $20, and they get a ballot. The ballot allows you to vote for artist proposals that you see during the dinner. So artists come, they propose their projects, and you start eating dinner, hang out with people, and then after dinner you cast your ballot. And then after dinner, is dessert, and that's when they count the ballots. So at the end of the night, after dessert and after all the ballots have been counted, they hand money to the artists. The money that was collected at the door is handed to artists that receive the most votes. So it's a sort of instant community micro grant, and it like happens very quickly, and it's sort of like a very wonderful idea, and I love it, and it should be replicated everywhere. But what attracted me to proposing there was partially the money, partially that they were in my neighborhood, but the most important thing was that it was a vote. It was like consent of my community that a local currency was an idea that people wanted to have. So that sort of like set me on my way a little. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was a little money, and like I said, the main thing was my neighbors wanted it. So then sort of the next thing that happened was I ended up getting some press, and that was sort of like shocking and frightening, and like, what? I haven't started yet, and okay, yes, I'm doing this thing, I guess. So I was able to sort of like witness the enthusiasm for the project, not just within my own neighborhood, which is all I really wanted to do, but also outside my area. And that kind of sent me down a sort of like strange tangent of trying to define what my region was and what local means. And in this city, which is so huge, and there's so many people here, and so many really interesting places to be in New York, I needed to feel like I understood what local meant. And so I went back to my feelings about Greenpoint and my feelings about how my neighborhood works and how I like hanging out with people that are in my neighborhood, and I don't have to get on the train or travel an hour. I can literally just cross the street and knock on a door. But I also wanted to go a little bit bigger than Greenpoint because I moved a lot. People move a lot in New York City, as likely everyone knows here. Even if you find a neighborhood that you really love, some rent issue may come up, or you may fall in love with someone who lives in another neighborhood, and you're moving. So I decided to combine 3 neighborhoods that I thought were interrelated. So that was Greenpoint, Williamsburg, and Bushwick. And that has been the truth of my living here in New York City, as I've lived in all of those neighborhoods. My studio has also been in that combination of neighborhoods. So it's sort of built on mine, but also my friends and how I understand other people move within those neighborhoods. So I had the place, and I had to figure out how to design this bill. Although I'm an artist, because I really felt that it was a community currency, I wanted the community to have their say in the design. So I held an open call, and I had a lot of people come and draw their ideas on pieces of paper. I had professors who assigned their classes my project. So I ended up getting a lot of student submissions, and we had so many submissions that we ended up taking an extra like 4 months to digest all of the ideas and figure out which ones of them we liked the most. And so from one of the currencies that we found, which was a Central Park currency, they had put a map on the back of the currency. And that seemed like so like duh for a local currency, but apparently like no one had done that yet. And so we drew this little map. We also liked the idea that you could draw on the bill. That you could say where you were and where you had purchased something, like basil, perhaps. So we sort of like wanted to play with the idea of what a bill would look like and how it could be valuable to in its visual design, and also as like this trust thing that I've been talking about. Let's see, where am I going with this? Oh, my original feeling was sort of like, why would anyone counterfeit a local currency? They would just be like, they would be a jerk. And I don't like that. So my initial reaction was really like, that's not a problem, because people aren't jerks, which was naive, but...
Did you pass
Oh, sure. Here you go. So what we ended up doing was consulting with a printer, a local printer, who was really into the project. He recognized immediately that it was an arts project, but also like hopefully an actual thing that could work in our neighborhood. That was like sort of the power of partnering with a local printer who understood the neighborhood, understood that there was a potential for it to really work. And his first suggestion was to find paper that wasn't widely available and paper that was easy to identify, which is sort of like confusing, but we got some really great suggestions about how to go about cracking that problem. So we found some special paper, and then the next piece is we created a custom embosser, and we hand serialize every single one of them. So they have all been touched by one of us in a very special, so they're very homemade. So that's how you authenticate. There's no way, because it's a custom embosser, there's no way you could get that custom embosser unless you stole it from me, in which case you would, again, be a jerk. So where am I going? Oh, where we are now is, so currently I hold trade stores in my studio. The way those work is you bring a thing to me, you bring a book or a pack of gum or anything that you think has value, and you sell it to me and we agree on an appraisal value. I pay you then in torches, and then you have torches in your hand to spend. And you have two options on how to spend those. You can either spend them at the store, where I've purchased a whole bunch of other things that your community has sold to me, or you can go online to our registry, where people are offering services such as private yoga lessons, tattoos, and French kissing. You might not know yet how to do that. So those are the options to spend. And the final sort of like piece that I'm working on right now is, so we have been able to distribute 400 torches in our first 4 hours, but it's still, like, I printed a lot of them, and I'd like to get more of them out. So what we're doing is kind of creating an economic stimulus package, which I'm calling economic kindling, to go with the torch. So we are partnering with a bunch of other organizations and art projects that use a currency in their system. So specifically, we just ran a game day last Sunday where I invited a game that has been produced locally in their area in Northampton, Massachusetts, called Coopoli. I invited them to come and demo their game. We played this game. It was very fun. It was a lot of cooperating, not a lot of competition, which was really fun. And at the end of the game, after learning how to cooperate for an hour, people were paid, I paid people in torches for their points that were received in the game. So I've just sort of like transferred the currency of the game into the currency of the local money that I make. And we have a new one coming up in June. This woman she sort of holds workshops on how to hack fashion, and we're working together to find a way to like reward people for achieving these workshops also in the local currency. So sort of always open to partnerships and open to ways that people can work together, and how I can bring my local currency into other projects in the area.
So thank you.